My name is Avi Abelo. As you can hear from my English, I'm originally born in America. Made Aliyah with my family when I was 16 years old, Baruch Hashem. After the army, ended up going back for studies in America because I got married, and my wife was in the middle of graduate school in New York. So I got my bachelor's at Baruch College in New York City and my master's at Columbia University. Then came back to Israel. My wife and I, Baruch Hashem, live today in the town of Efrat, in Hare Yehuda, Gush Etzion. And Baruch Hashem, we raise our 4 boys there. One was just got married 4 months ago, Baruch Hashem. First week of the war. Second one is in the army, fighting in Gaza. Third is in Mechina, like you. He's your age. He just finished high school last year. And Atzmona. It's Alright, so he's down on the Egyptian border, the Egyptian-Gaza border. And then fourth is in 9th grade. 4 boys, Baruch Hashem, we were blessed with. So I've been asked to talk to you about Rivonut, sovereignty in Jerusalem, Judea Samaria, as the solution for getting out of the Jewish people moving forward. What do? I actually have a media company, and I have my own daily program called The Pulse of Israel, where I like to say I provide the inspiring, politically incorrect truth about Israel, the Jewish people, and the freedom-loving world. So you're going to hear a lot of things today that are politically incorrect. And the only thing that I ask people to do is just open their minds. Open their minds, use common sense, think things through, and come to your own conclusions, even though I'm going to be presenting to you. I was asked to present to you a solution. But think for yourselves. All right? And again, this is a daily program. Pulseofisrael.com is my website. It's daily video and podcast, different issues, dealing with Israel, current events. And I like to say I'm a proud voice from the Judean Hills, because I actually live in the Judean Hills and Jerusalem. Because it's very important that people around the world understand that Judea Samaria is the historical term for the areas that today are called the West Bank. But the West Bank is actually a geographic location. It's the West Bank of what? The West Bank of the Jordan River. It's not a historical place. It's not a historical land that belongs to any people called the West Bankians or the Palestinians. It's a geographic description of a land mass. But looking at maps from before 1948 throughout history, the area in those historical maps forever was basically called Judea and Samaria. All right, so we're going to be talking today going into why I really believe sovereignty, meaning Israel applying Israeli law in Judea, Samaria, and Gaza, is not just the solution that provides security to all those in Israel and Judea, Samaria, and Gaza who want to live peacefully together. It's also the most just solution and the moral solution. Therefore, realistic solution. All right, so we'll get into that. Before touching upon the history and the actual solution, I actually want to start talking about non-Jews. All right, I'm going to start with a woman named Brigitte Gabriel. Anyone ever heard of Brigitte Gabriel? Brigitte Gabriel is a Lebanese Christian woman. And she's on record, she talks about this all the time, especially nowadays with what's going on in Gaza. And I actually had the opportunity to interview her a number of years ago. She is so thankful for the Jewish state of Israel, basically for saving the lives of her and her family. How so? Well, once upon a time, before the year 2000, Israel had a security zone in southern Lebanon. I actually served in my IDF duty in southern Lebanon, so I know it personally from my own service. And the people who basically we were giving protection to by having a security zone in southern Lebanon, we weren't just protecting northern Israel, as today we see how much problems we have, where we have close to 100,000 Jews evacuated from their homes because Hezbollah has rockets and they're shooting and destroying homes every single day in our northern communities, which they can't do if we'd have a security zone. So believe it or not, we will have a security zone in southern Lebanon again in order to protect our northern border. But besides protecting Israelis by having that security zone, we protected Lebanese Christians because they were persecuted, I don't know how, I guess minority at the time, by the Muslim Shiites who were taking over the country of Lebanon. And when Israel pulled out of southern Lebanon, because we thought that would bring peace and it would bring international legitimacy, etc., 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 all of a sudden the Lebanese Christians, their lives were in danger, they had to run away. And those of them who succeeded ran into Israel to save their lives. And Israel saved the life of Brigitte, her family, and many other Christian Lebanese. All right? So that's story number one of what happens to minorities when the Jews are not in control and able to provide protection to everybody, to all minorities, not just to Jews. All right? Let's go to story number two. There's a program in the army called Nativ. Anyone familiar with it? Yeah, what's the Nativ program? Giur, right? So Israel has a number of Israeli citizens who are not Jewish according to Israeli law. Put that issue aside for a second. Obviously, most of them are Ukrainian or Russian because of the massive aliyah back in the 90s. So is everything okay?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. And Israel, the IDF has a conversion program where Israeli soldiers, not coercion whatsoever, they are able to decide if they want to convert and not just be Israeli citizens, but be Jews according to Jewish law. So every few months, a part of the program is experiencing a Shabbat in a religious home. So we always host when they come to Efrat. And again, they're usually always Ukrainians or Russians. So we go around the Shabbat table, Friday night, what's your name, what's your story, where are you from, what's going on? And again, sometimes girls, sometimes guys. This Shabbat, again, this is like 4 or 5 years ago. This Shabbat, it was guys that we were hosting, 5 guys. Going around the table, Igor, Maxine, right? Going around the table, and then the guy right across from me. What's his name? Muhammad. Like, whoa, Muhammad. Where are you from? I'm expecting to hear Nazrat, Akko, Jerusalem, Yaffo. What does he say? Aza. Right, Ramallah? No. Aza. I'm like, wait a second. I have an IDF soldier converting to Judaism who's a Muslim from Gaza. What exactly is your story, Muhammad? And then he told us his story. And basically, he goes to say, listen, his father was an employee of the Palestinian Authority. After Israel, what I call the expulsion of the Jews from Gush Katif, from Gaza in the summer of 2005, and handed over the Gaza Strip to the Palestinian Authority. His father worked for the Palestinian Authority. 2007, Hamas had a military coup, throwing Palestinian Authority workers off of roofs and murdering them, taking over. Like, people don't like to talk about this, what happens to their own society, how they kill each other. Muhammad's father's life was in danger because they were killing Palestinian Authority officials across the Gaza Strip. He understood Hamas was trouble. He was secretly helping the IDF with information about Hamas in Gaza. The life of Muhammad's family was even more in danger. And the Jewish state of Israel, as an act of appreciation for the assistance that Muhammad's father was helping Israel, secretly smuggled Muhammad, his 3 older brothers, his father, and his mother into Israel, gave them Israeli citizenship and security. And they're today living in Israel. All right, this was 4 or 5 years ago. I'm like, that's an unbelievable story, Muhammad. But why are you serving in the IDF? Like, you can live a good life in the IDF. He goes, you don't understand. All my life, I was taught that you guys are evil, and you guys want to kill us. And all of a sudden, our lives turned upside down. I found that it's my own people, my own family, my own friends, my own neighbors who want to murder me and my family. And it's the Jews, the Jewish state of Israel, who saved our lives. And me and all 3 of my older brothers all served in the Israeli army. I'm like, okay, wow, unbelievable. But why convert to be a Jew? You know, it's not easy to be a Jew. Like, we got persecuted, like, close to 2,000 years. We're one of the most hated people in the world. We have 613 commandments we're supposed to try to do. Not so easy to be a Jew. Like, you could be a good Muslim Israeli serving in the army. Like, why convert? He goes, you don't get it. Me and all three of my brothers converted to Judaism because we were taught by our Muslim clerics all of our lives that Judaism is evil and they want to kill us. And we found out that in reality, Islam sanctifies death and Judaism sanctifies life. So me and all three of my brothers converted to be Jews. They all served in the Israeli army and converted. Now, that's a story that happened at my Shabbat table. But that one little story tells the reality of our existence in the Middle East, the whole reality. It doesn't get any airtime in the media. Nothing. And we live in a complex reality. We do. But part of that complex reality can't ignore reality. And I'll give this story just from today's news. Trying to find her name. There is a woman by the name of, see, it's just from this morning. It's not coming out for me. I don't have her name in a second. An Egyptian author who just had to run away for her life from Egypt because she was calling out the evil of Hamas. She's a famous Egyptian author. She can't live in Egypt anymore. All she was voicing her opinion on what she believed to be something that's wrong and evil. But she has no voice, no freedom, no freedom of her own voice, no freedom of speech in Egypt. This is the reality of the Middle East that we cannot ignore. We are a peace-loving people. We want to live in peace with each and every person who lives with us. But we cannot ignore the facts on the ground that we're living with people who do not want to live in peace with us. Those who do want to live in peace with us, we embrace them. The Jewish state of Israel embraces anyone who wants to live in peace with us. But we cannot ignore the reality that we live in a region with billions of people, that there are some pockets who like us, but a majority do not. And hence, we are a tiny island or oasis of sanity, of morality. And I'll say this as well. In Sunni countries, if you're not Sunni, guess what happens to you? You're persecuted. You're Shiite living in a Sunni country, persecuted. Christian, Yazidi, Jews, persecuted. Shiite countries. Don't trust me. Everything I say, go do your own research, folks. Your own research. Shiite countries. All right, if you're not Shiite, if you're a Sunni Muslim, persecuted. Minorities persecuted. Don't have freedom. Don't have equality. You know the only country in the Middle East where a Shiite Muslim, a Sunni Muslim, a gay Muslim, an atheist-born Muslim have freedom and equality with Jews, Christians, and all other minorities? There's only one country. What country is that? Israel. It's the only country in the Middle East with freedom and equality for everyone, and especially for all different types of Muslims. So once you make that shift and accept reality, and stop ignoring reality, you understand that the Jewish state of Israel not only is not the problem in the Middle East, we are the solution for the Middle East. Because the most blessed Arab Muslims in the whole Middle East are those who live as Israeli citizens. According to Israeli law, they can become Israeli prime ministers. They can serve in the Knesset. They could be the heads of the top law firms. They could be the heads of hospitals. If the whole world's open to them, is there sometimes racism? Of course. Every society has racism. There's no racism in Germany. There's no racism in America. No racism. Of course. That's part of reality. Society has issues whenever there are differences. And Israel has it too, especially with all of our differences. But, again, I'm all about reality. And the reality is, compare Israel to every single other Arab Muslim country in the whole Middle East and Northern Africa. We're a blessing to anyone who understands how blessed they are to live and be Israeli citizens. Alright? So that's reality number one. Politically incorrect information number one I'm putting out there for everyone to understand. Politically incorrect information number two I'm going to put out there for everyone to understand. Let's talk about occupation. Do you know who the biggest occupiers are in the world on a historical level? Do you know why the Arabs are called Arabs? Where do they come from? What? Arabian Peninsula. Right? The Arabs come from the Arabian Peninsula. As opposed to Jews, why are Jews called Jews? Where do we come from?
Judea.
Judea. Right? That's very important. Again, reality, facts. Now, the Arabs started in the Arabian Peninsula. Then with the sword, or with war, over hundreds of years, where did they conquer and colonialize and commit genocide for hundreds of years and still persecute minorities till today? The whole Middle East, Northern Africa, and they even got into Europe and Spain and Portugal, and then the Christians beat them back. So the biggest colonializers in the world are the Muslims. And yet every day, the story in the media is that the Jews, living in our ancestral homeland, that the Jewish state of Israel is not going to be 76 years old. The modern Jewish state of Israel is the third Jewish commonwealth. It's the third time we're having a Jewish state. The first time was King David. The second time was the Second Temple. We're here for thousands of years, so I like to say Israel is 3,000 years old and now going to be 76 years young. And yet we're the ones called the occupiers, and the whole world ignores the fact that the whole Middle East and Northern Africa is basically being occupied via genocide and persecution of minorities for centuries. Like, we're being bombarded with lies every single day. Every day. And it's important to get there, to understand that. Now I want to go to the flip side. And the flip side is how us Jews don't internalize the amazingness of our own story, of our own identity. And again, I'm very connected with what's going on in Western education, college campuses, etc., etc. The whole thing today is about oppressed and oppressor, human rights, equal rights. Wonderful. Do you know the most oppressed people in all of history are? The Jews. We don't talk about it because we're not crybabies. We're 80 years after the Holocaust, one of the worst genocides committed, definitely in modern history. And yet, not only do we not focus on, oh, how sorry are we because we were oppressed and genocide was committed against us 80 years ago. No, we moved forward, returned to our ancestral homeland, and created the tiny Jewish state of Israel, which is smaller than the state of New Jersey in America, to be, if I'm not mistaken, the 14th most booming economy in the world in just 76 years. And this is after we were exiled and persecuted for 2,000 years. Now, if I had any sense of integrity and I was a college professor today on any college campus, I would get up there and say, you're a Jew? You have the most inspiring story for all of humanity. Every oppressed people should learn from you how you've overcome oppression, how you've moved forward, how you've owned your identity. You created an unbelievable country that's helping the world and helping humanity. We are a poster child of success for overcoming oppression, and yet, on college campuses today, and in the media, We are looked at as the most evil people in the world. That's 180 degrees from reality, from the truth. And if anything comes out of this talk, seriously, you have a whole day of hearing different solutions about Israel, that's less important. Whatever you decide after the end of the day makes sense, gesundheit. If anything comes out of this talk, I want you to remember that, to be inspired by your Jewish identity. And understand how inspiring our story is. And how blessed you are to be Jews living today. We are the most blessed generation of Jews in thousands of years. And you guys get to live in these days. And you guys get to live in a day where we have our Jewish state of Israel. Where we have an army to defend ourselves. Like I told you in the beginning, I have 4 boys. And we all know Israel has a law of mandatory service. Well, I've been teaching my boys all their lives as they've been growing up to us. We don't serve in the IDF because it's mandatory. We serve because it's a privilege. Because it's a privilege that our grandparents, our great-grandparents, great-grandparents did not have. Because for thousands of years we were defenseless. Never able to defend ourselves. And I'm actually coming off of reserve duty serving in the Judean hills. My son's in Gaza. And I could have stopped service 10 years ago because I'm past the age. And my mother still asks, and my wife still asks, Avi, what are you doing? You're an old man already. And I'm like, I'm not giving up on this privilege. So long as I still give added value to my unit, even though I'm one of the grandfathers, I'm serving. This is a privilege I can't give up on. So if anything comes out of today, take that message, if nothing else. Now, let's go into post-October 7th. Because we're in a whole new reality today. Because honestly, I'd be giving the same talk pre-October 7th, but things are just, unfortunately, so much clearer to so many people because of what we experienced as a people on October 7th. And again, I speak around the world, and I'm actually coming from speaking engagements in America. I look at that also as a type of miluim, helping strengthen the Jews abroad, because we're dealing with a double shock of October 7th. And I'm sure many of you from abroad can attest to this, and even Israelis, not just. By the way, who here is Israeli? How many Israelis? Wow. Okay. All right, good. Just gonna get a second. And how many from Europe? America? Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So post-October 7th, we understand October 7th was a shock. It was a shock on 2 levels. Well, what I missed? Canada. North America, forgive me. We're in Canada. Toronto. Okay. So post-October 7th, October 7th was a shock on 2 levels. Level number 1, that we experienced the most horrendous, horrific massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. That's shock number 1. Shock number 2, I believe, was even more shocking. The fact that not only have we not received the sympathy, empathy, and support from the world, from enlightened nations, from people who profess to care about human rights and equality and oppression and rape, but we're getting even more hate than ever before as a result of what happened to us on October 7th. That's our new reality as a Jew in the October 7th world. That Jews are just like, I like to say, we're like deer caught in the headlights. Like, what the heck is going on? Makes no sense whatsoever. But it does make sense when you put 2 and 2 together. Because most of the anti-Semitism growing today around the world is based on one word. And that word is a cause called Palestine. All of a sudden, Jewish college students, American college campuses, Canadian college campuses, European college campuses, they're being attacked for because of Palestine. Why should a Jewish student in the middle of Chicago be attacked or have swastikas written on their university doors or on the Hillel campus because of Palestine? What does that have to do with a Chicago Jew, a Jewish student? Why should Jews not be safe on their streets in New York City or Los Angeles today, or London or Paris, because of pro-Palestine protesters? Because at the end of the day, it has nothing to do, or not that it's nothing to do, it's not about Palestine. It's about the ancient Jew-hating anti-Semitism, growing today by leaps and bounds under the social justice virtuing signal of Palestine. Because of course I'm standing up for the oppressed Palestinians, so of course you are bad, you're a Jew. Because Israel is Zionists, is Jews. Because we're all Jews. So the Jewish people are under attack all over the world. And what little people understand is that Palestine is a lie. It's a lie. All right? More political incorrectness for you to go do your own research and understand. Again, this is the third time the Jews have a state. Right? Well, the first time we had a state was King David. King David, 400 or 500 years before Muhammad was born and Islam was created. Muslims at the time were pagans. Second time we had a state. The Second Temple. 200, 300 years before Muhammad was born and Islam was created. All Arabs were still in Arabia. The Romans created the term called Palestine. When? When they destroyed the temple. 70 CE. Right? Who was living here in this country when the Romans called this area Palestine? Jews! The first Palestinians were Jews! There were no Arabs here for 700 years! I'm just going facts. I just like history, folks. Okay? Then we go to the archives on Google of the New York Times, pre-1948. And again, everything I say, do your own research. Don't trust me for anything. Pre-1948. New York Times, Washington Post, London Times, yada, yada, yada. Anytime the term Palestinian was used, pre-1948, who did it refer to? Jews! There was no Arab people called Palestinians. None! Go to the United Nations Partition Plan, 1947. Go to the language. Guess what? It doesn't have any language about a people called Palestinians. It calls for the creation of two states. A Jewish state and an Arab state. There were no Palestinians in 1947. No Palestinian Arab nation. There's never been a Palestinian Arab nation with historical claims to any land here between Jordan and the Mediterranean Sea. Never! There are Arabs who live here. Some Arabs who were forcefully converted to Judaism, from Judaism hundreds of years ago by the sword, by Islam. One of the worst Arab terror centers in Judea and Samaria is an Arab village called Yatta outside of Hebron. And you still go to the houses, you can see the mezuzahs on the doors. And now you can understand the psychology. And again, I'm an organizational psychology major. So you understand the psychology of it. They have to prove that they're more Catholic than the Pope. So percentage-wise, they have like the most terrorists coming out of that Arab village than any other Arab village in Judea and Samaria. Because the whole Arab world knows that they used to be Jews. Or many of them. Alright? Majority of the Arabs came at the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, from all other countries. Most of the Arabs in Gaza are from Egypt. That's why their last names are Egyptian cities. There is no historic people called Palestinian Arabs with a historic claim to this land. And the whole cause Palestine, was created in 1964 by the KGB. Okay? Do your own history, folks, as a way to destroy Israel and harm the United States of America. And then anyone saying, oh, there must be a Palestinian state, that's the only that's justice, that's the only moral thing. Really? Then how do you explain that between the years of 1948 to 1967, when Jordan illegally occupied Judea and Samaria, and Egypt illegally occupied Gaza, and I say illegally because the world did not recognize their occupation, there was never a call for the establishment of a state called Palestine. Not once. The Arabs didn't ask for it. The world didn't ask for it. All of a sudden, Yasser Arafat comes out of nowhere, born in Egypt, educated by the KGB. And all of a sudden, there's a cause called Palestine. All about destroying the Jewish state of Israel. And we, good Jews that we are, we only want to be good Jews. We only want to be moral. We only want to be just. Well, they live with us, and here they're killing us. So, all right, we'll give away our land. All right, it's not our land. All right, it's their land. All right, let them kill us. All right, this terrorist leader is not as bad as that terrorist leader. Let's talk to him. Oh, this terrorist leader's in jail because he murdered 5,000 Jews, but maybe, no, let's talk to him. Let's take him out of jail and put him as the head of the Palestinian Authority. Yeah, let's not treat the child. Hamas is the problem, not the Palestinian Authority. Oh, the Palestinian Authority pays terrorists in jail and their families and literally supports terror, which is like the textbook definition of anti-Semitism. But no, they're not an enemy. Let's talk to the Palestinian Authority. We can make peace with them. We're a people that we try to be so moral, and we try to be so good, and we try to push away the feelings of bad or having to think bad about others. Like, no, I don't want to think that this Arab sitting next to me is literally being talked to in his mosque that he should kill Jews, and that maybe one day he'll do it. I don't want to think that. We just push away reality because we're Jews, living for 2,000 plus years of persecution and exile, and it's hard to face reality. It's better to have hope. It is better to have hope. So I'm going to give you the true hope. And that true hope is finally the Jewish people acting like a self-respecting people for our own lives and our own respect and our own identity, and owning our identity, which includes owning our homeland. The clearest, there's a book, I don't know if anyone ever read this. I know teachers read it. Everything I ever needed to learn, I learned in kindergarten. Anyone ever read that book? A simple book. Guess what? We learn in kindergarten how to deal with bullies. You don't deal with bullies by appeasing bullies. You learn that in kindergarten. And we've been appeasing a genocidal entity that educates its children in kindergarten to murder us. Don't trust me? Go to palwatch.org, go to Memory. There are plenty of organizations out there following the television programming, the educational programming, funded by the international community, funded by UNRWA, funded by European governments, funded by the State Department, that teach kindergarten kids in Yudan Shomron, in Jerusalem, in Gaza, to kill Jews. Why are we ignoring this? But the Jewish world ignores it. Our Jewish organizations ignore it. No, we don't want to talk about that. It's going to make us look bad. Like, how are we supposed to live when our neighbors' children in kindergarten are being taught to kill Jews? It's like not normal. We're going against our own, not only self-respect, we're going against our own self-preservation to stand up and defend ourselves so our children can live without a threat of terror in their lives. Like, why are we ignoring this? And we're ignoring it day after day after day. Not just in politics, not just in the army, not just in Israeli intelligence, but even in our educational institutions. The majority of them. Ignoring reality. So then what's the solution? Yeah, it's owning our identity. Because self-respect, you learn in kindergarten. Bully's only going to stop you if you stand up for yourself. You appease the bully, forget about it. The bully's going to be bullying you forever. We give away our land, that we're going against. Hamas charter is destruction of Israel. Palestinian Authority's charter is destruction of Israel and the Salami approach. Giving away our land is appeasing our enemy, which just empowers them and motivates them to continue their terror against us. So anyone who thinks a two-state solution will end our terror and bring peace, you're living in La La Land. And post-October 7th, they didn't even kill me. They didn't come to kill me on October 7th, everybody. I'm the settler, right? I'm the evil one in the world, right? There's no peace because I live in Judea and Samaria, right? October 7th, did they come to kill me? Or did they come to kill, excuse me for being very politically incorrect, and I'm not trying to get political here, but a majority of the people who live in the communities on the Gaza envelope are not right-wing. They're left-wing peace activists. They were slaughtered. They were murdered. They were kidnapped by people who worked in their homes, people who acted as spies for Hamas, people who came in and looted their homes, burnt their homes. So Israelis today, post-October 7th, are understanding they're not killing us because of where we live. It's not because of the evil settlers who dare to live in our ancestral homeland, where again you come up with the hypocrisy. A Jew can live in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, right? But no, it's against international law for a Jew to live in Bethlehem, Israel, where King David was born. Does that make any sense to you on any rational level? Any rational level. Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, Bethlehem, Texas. There are plenty of cities in America and in Bethlehem. You can live in any single one. Only Bethlehem in the world you can't live in. Bethlehem, Israel. Really? And then we're being told by our teachers, by our rabbis, by our politicians, oh, we have to accept that. Oh, yeah, that's reality. No, folks. That is self-depreciation. That is a Jew not standing up for himself as a Jew. And humanity is waiting for the Jew to stand up for himself as a Jew. Because we are the front line of the whole freedom-loving world. Radical Islam is on the march all over the world. We're the front line. Guess what freedom-loving people in America and Canada and England and France are waiting for? They're waiting for the Jew to stand up for himself here and stop this radical Islam from all the evil it's doing to us. And we're not only are we not standing up for ourselves, we're letting down the whole world by appeasing this evil, radical Muslim ideology that seriously teaches its kids in kindergarten to kill us each and every day. So not only is sovereignty in Judea and Samaria and Gaza the right, moral, just, realistic solution for us, that is that's the line of the sand in order to start the rest of the freedom-loving world to stand up for itself and protect itself from the growing jihadi-ism that's spreading like wildfire across the Western world, about to destroy America and Canada as it's already destroying Europe. And again, disagree with me all you want. I think that's the reality. So now let's go into the security issues, tachlis, of sovereignty. And again, this is not going to be Avi Abela talking. I'm going to be quoting right now information that was given over at the Knesset a number of weeks ago. I was actually there, witnessed it myself, heard it myself, by a Brigadier General Amir Avivi of the Bitchonistim organization. And he told the politicians the following. He goes, there are three potential solutions for Gaza, and it's Gaza and Judea and Samaria. Three potential solutions. He said, we already tried two, they both failed. There's only one solution that remains. The third. What are the first two that failed? Number one that failed, self-rule for the Arab Muslims. We gave them self-rule. Palestinian Authority, Judea and Samaria was supposed to be Gaza, but no, because Hamas killed their own brothers, right? They kill themselves. And we all know, again, we all talk about democracy, democracy, democracy. When was the last time there was an election for the Palestinian Authority? 18 years ago. Right? And why is there no elections? Because they know who's going to win? Hamas. Because Hamas is not an organization. Hamas is an ideology. They are taught to kill Jews in kindergarten. It's an ideology. It doesn't make a difference what organization you're associated with. So Hamas will take it in a landslide in Judea and Samaria. Hence, there's no democracy and never going to be a democracy. But under self-rule, we have an organization called the Palestinian Authority that supports terrorists, pays terrorists, they are terrorists. The leaders of the Palestinian Authority not only have not said anything about October 7th, like, oh my God, that shouldn't have happened, that's horrible, we're so sorry. No. You have leaders like Jabril Rajoub, who again is touted as the Western world as a replacement for Mahmoud Abbas to take over the Palestinian Authority, who say, oh my God, there are going to be plenty more October 7ths in Judea and Samaria. That's who we want America to place as the head of the Palestinian authorities. And they all say it. They agree with October 7th. They want to do it again and again, also in Judea and Samaria. Hamas, every time Israel pulls out our military, what do we get?
More terror.
Terror. We pulled out of southern Lebanon, Hezbollah took over, pulled out of Gaza. We get terror from Gaza. So self-rule is off the table. Self-rule does not provide peace. Solution number two. We have a military presence. Just a military presence. Well, guess what? That's also failed. Israel had a military presence in Lebanon, just a military presence. America had military presence in Iraq and Afghanistan and other places. What happens when a country only has a military presence to provide security? Well, after time, because of casualties and deaths of soldiers, the civilian population end up pressuring to pull back the military. Because why are we risking the lives of our soldiers? And so, again, proof. Failed solution. So self-rule for the Arabs in Judea Samaria and Gaza, failed solution. We have 30 years of failure. Only military presence, failure. So then Brigadier General Avivi said the following third solution, which still has yet to be tried, and it's the only one that will succeed. And that is military and civilian presence with Israeli sovereignty of Israeli law. Because then we're totally in control, like we're supposed to be. Both for security means, and again, the difference between security and civilian, how it differentiates from just security, because when there's just security, one, it's easier to attack just the military if it's just security, if there's just IDF and no civilians. And you don't have a civilian population acting as a backbone to provide infrastructure and also societal support, etc., etc., etc. So the solution that he said still has yet to be tried, is yes, military, civilian, Israeli, total control over the areas. And that's how we provide security for all of Israel. And again, today, many Israelis, there'll be questions soon, finish up. There'll be questions, most Israelis today understand, and I was active in the streets. I was living here in the 1990s. I was protesting against Oslo in the streets. Me and my family, my brother was sent to jail, my mother was sent to jail. We were trampled over by the horses in the streets of Jerusalem in 1993 as we were protesting against Oslo. Back then I was saying, guys, it's crazy. Oslo's going to bring more terror and war. It's not going to bring any peace. It's going to push peace further away. And that was 1993. 2005, Gaza disengagement, respectfully expulsion. I was out protesting. I was trying to stop that as well, knowing it would bring more terror. I was also telling people that anti-Semitism will grow. When the world sees Jews throwing Jews out of homes and destroying Jewish communities, that'll give a message to the world, oh my God, look what the Jews are doing to the Jews. We can do it too. And that will lead to a growth of anti-Semitism. I snuck into Gush Katif in order to try to stop the expulsion. Back in 2005, I was there for the last month. My wife was pregnant with our third child, 6 months pregnant. Said goodbye. I'm running to try to save Gush Katif. I was in there for the last month. I ended up producing a movie about Gush Katif. It's called Mischak Beiti. Don't know if anyone saw that movie, Home Game. But the last youth basketball tournament that took place in Gush Katif the summer of the expulsion of 2005. It was clear as day to me since Oslo was signed that it would bring more terror and war and not bring peace, push peace further away. And so now we're left with applying sovereignty. Finally, it's our land. There is no Palestinian nation that has any rights, any historical rights to the land. Security-wise, it's the only way we have security. It's the way we save not just Israel, but we stand up and help save the freedom-loving world and standing up for themselves against growing jihadism all over the place. It's the only solution. And then people ask, all right, what about the Arabs living in Judea Samaria and Gaza? Yeah, good question. Great question. Because we want to live in peace with the Arabs, who want to live in peace with us. And that's the key. Any Arab who lives in Judea Samaria and Gaza who wants to live enjoying the freedom and equality of being an Israeli citizen as Israeli, Arab, Israeli citizens. Ahad HaMesada, as we say. It's simcha. Let's give them citizenship. It's simcha. Anyone who supports terror, connected to terror, well, does any country want someone who supports terror living within your borders? No. Help them leave. Let them live in countries that agree with their ideology. Let them live in Iran. Let them live in Egypt. Let them live in Jordan. Let them live in Lebanon. Let them live in Syria. Right? You agree in killing Jews? Live in a country that wants to kill Jews. Don't live with us. But at the end of the day, those Arab Muslims who live with us will be the ones who understand how blessed they are to live in the Jewish state of Israel. And hence, we have a peaceful future. And any other solution is what I call a delusion. Two-state solution is not a solution, it's a delusion. In order to solve a problem, you have to understand the problem. If you diagnose a problem incorrectly, no matter what solution you throw at it, it won't solve the problem. It's a very simple explanation, analogy. You're a doctor, or you go to a doctor. Doctor, this is what hurts me. Great, this is the medication to take. If the doctor misdiagnoses you, will the medication work? No, medication won't work. He misdiagnosed you. If you misdiagnose why our Arab Muslim neighbors are murdering us and trying to murder us every day, all over the land of Israel, well, if you misdiagnose that, just because you put the word solution after two-state doesn't mean it's going to solve the problem. Just makes you sound like you care. But it's really a two-state delusion because it's not diagnosing the problem correctly. We're not in a land conflict where, oh my God, well, if it's a land conflict, yeah, just split it up. Makes sense. Problem is, it's been a two-state solution that's been tried for over 100 years, starting in the 1913, the Faisal-Weitzman Agreement, then the Peel Commission, then the United States Partition Plan, meaning it's been tried and tried and tried and tried. Guess who always says yes? The Jews. Guess who always says no? The Arabs. Well, can't we learn already? It's not going to solve the problem. So it's time finally for the Jewish people to stand up for our historic rights, for justice, and for true peace, to be able to truly provide security, not just to the Jews amongst us, but to the Arabs, the Christians, the Muslims, the Jews, etc., etc., etc. Because like I said, the most blessed minority, not just Muslims, the most blessed minority in the whole Middle East are those who are blessed to live with us here in the Jewish state of Israel. So again, disagree with me all you want politically. I at least want you guys to go at it here, feeling proud to be Jews. Nothing's perfect, and nothing's ever going to be perfect. And we're always going to have things to solve in Israeli society. We're Jews. We like to solve things. We like to make things better. We've been doing it for thousands of years. But don't let the daily lies of the media and false narratives get you down and break down your own pride in being a Jew and living in Israel and serving in Israel. And please God, Be'ezrat Hashem, raising your family in Israel. Because we're the most blessed generation of Jews for thousands of years. So hold on to that. Questions? And how much time do we have for questions?
About 5 minutes.
About 5 minutes? Look, you're in charge of picking the questions then. Yeah.
All right. We'll need.
You said that we don't look at our past and we just move on and don't the entirety of the curriculum in history in every single high school in Israel is only Jews. Only Jews. We go back to Poland trips. We look at our history. We do see that we're oppressed. We talk about it a lot. We cry about it everywhere. So that was one thing. Yeah, that's just fact. And then the second thing was, you talked about never mind. I'm going to go into that. There's only 5 minutes, so I asked that.
We can extend it.
So what?
Okay,
is that a question?
It's just how do you think that's true then? If we don't cry about it.
Because I do believe education, Holocaust education, gets a lot of attention. A lot of attention. Biblical education, and in terms of understanding that we're the third Jewish Commonwealth and the historical impact of that for us today, not as much attention. But yeah, Holocaust doesn't. What?
It's a whole yechida.
Still, it's not.
We have Yom HaShoah every day, every
year. Holocaust education.
Every day is Yom HaShoah day.
Yeah, Holocaust education I'm saying Holocaust education, yes. But not as much in terms of biblical education. Not just learning Bible as a Bible story, but biblical history, understanding that it's our identity. and really internalizing it properly to understand our reality today.
The
We
second
have to
thing
learn
was
enough. We don't have to learn science in high school.
you said that we're happy to live with Arabs that are good with us. Is there like an exam that they take? Like how do we decide who lives with us, who
It's a
doesn't?
great question. I don't have the answer to that. Smarter
So it's
people than me
not-
will come up with the answer. Yeah, but it's a problem we have to solve, 100%.
But it's
100%.
not something that is solvable. You can't just
It'll be solvable.
So would you examine them? Like how does that
I just told you, yeah, that's a great issue and we'll deal with it and it has to be dealt with. Please God, we're going to get to that point, well that'll be the issue dealt with. Please God.
possible way to deal with it?
I don't understand. I'm more concerned with making sure that people who want to kill us don't live near my children anymore or near your children. That's more important to me and that issue we'll deal with when we get to it and come to the solution.
Usually the solution is just don't let them.
How do you feel about like? I feel like if we apply sovereignty to all of Israel, then the majority will be Arabs, and there won't be a Jewish majority. And even if it is, it'll be so small that it can like turn in a few years, and then like it won't be a Jewish country.
Right, so that's exactly why I put in the component, which, what's your name?
Winnie.
Which Ronit was just asking about, which is yes, there has to be some level of allegiance. And believe it or not, majority are not going to swear
What if
allegiance
they
to the
do?
Jewish state of Israel.
What if a majority of them are like
They're not.
dedicated to love Jews, and then
They're not.
Okay, but let's assume they do.
But no, I'm realistic. They're not. They're not.
Don't
Go
even worse
to the
than
reality. Tomorrow, they're not. They're educated. They're educated as kindergarten kills to murder Jews.
so you're
Everything's good.
okay with them if they're like a tiny group in our.
No, I'm okay with anyone who wants to live peacefully with us.
Okay, and what if? Okay, let's say the ones that don't leave, and then they're a minority. In 30 years, they have so many kids. They're like about to become the majority. What are you gonna do? And they love us.
Again, right now, I'm realistic. It's a minority. Okay? Next. Yeah.
My question is this. I'm not, in principle, I don't think there's anything in principle wrong with applying sovereignty, but I want to know about the individual rights you think of Arabs and Jews in your ideal state. Like, we heard a lot about in East Jerusalem, a place like Sheikh Jarrah, where Jews are trying to use papers from the 1920s to kick out Arab families from their houses. Well, and would you encourage that kind of thing, the evictions, the way in which that if you were an Arab family who lived in Ashkelon and lost your house, there's no chance you're going to get it back. But if you were a Jew who used to live in parts of Hebron or Sheikh Jarrah, you can get it back and evict the Arabs.
Yeah, great question. Well, first of all, let's take there's the reality that 1948 was a war that the Jews did not start. Right? It's a war that was forced upon us. We agreed to the two-state solution. The Arab world, and again, 1948, there was no Palestinian people in 1948. The Palestinian army did not attack us. We were attacked by the Arab Muslim world, right? And then the Arabs ran away from their homes as part of war. And as part of war, and part of a defensive war, they lost those homes, right? As opposed to Jerusalem, Sheikh Jarrah. Do you know the history of Sheikh Jarrah? So Sheikh Jarrah was a Jewish community, and because the British could not protect the Jews had to run away and lost their homes. And the Arabs have no deeds to those homes. And now we're back. And I think whether it's courts or whether they're actually bought, because many places they're actually using purchases, they're returning to Jewish homes. So big difference between the two. But going to the core of what you're saying, because you brought two different issues. Core of what you're saying in terms of rights, like I said, those who pledge allegiance to the Jewish state of Israel and understand how blessed they are to live here will be receiving full citizenship rights living in Israel with sovereignty. That's through that. Yes. Who's next?
We have time for one more question.
One more question. I'm not choosing.
We set it to 35.
No, you choose. Yeah, Tom, you're choosing. You're choosing.
Okay.
I have enough people angry at me. Yeah.
So you said how we have the three options and one of them hasn't been tried.
Yeah.
But we kind of have done it in different, and it's worked to different extents. It's worked much better in the Golan Heights, where we did basically apply sovereignty, and then in East Jerusalem, where we partially applied we fully applied sovereignty, but didn't fully grant citizenship, then gave a path towards citizenship, which is realistically probably more of how this would go, because like you said, it would have to be a process. and that process would have to be made by somebody brilliant. But as we've seen, like the process is like so far right now is fairly flawed. Like I heard from somebody yesterday who applied and was denied. She applied and then 2 years later was denied recently because she reposted something that an Israeli organization like posted without even her opinion, or like changed her profile to a picture of black. Not like having support, just as like a humanitarian thing of like I feel bad on all sides. Sad. She like seemed like, and she lives in East Jerusalem. She's a resident, and she was trying to gain citizenship. So how can we, like, I just see it difficult to do what we did and actually get that process right, and how it wouldn't just be us trying to minimize the numbers.
So what's the question exactly? How do we accomplish?
I know you said that you don't have the answer to how to do it, but you said that this hasn't been done, but it has been done, and you've seen that it ends up flawed in populations that are, because in the north it was much easier, smaller population, but you do this with a much larger Palestinian Arab population, and there's much more worry about a majority and whatever, so you have to be much more strict about it, and we've seen that it's flawed. So how do you think it wouldn't be flawed this time?
Yeah, first of all, yeah, East Jerusalem is a very thorny issue. And again, if you ask me, I don't think we dealt properly with the eastern side of Jerusalem. Again, it's the United Jerusalem. If anyone talks about East-West Jerusalem, again, we're totally being brainwashed, because Jerusalem has been a united city for forever. It was only divided when it was illegally occupied by Jordan between 1948 and 1967. So there is no East Jerusalem that belongs to another people, Jerusalem. So Israel has not dealt properly with the eastern side of Jerusalem, if you ask me. And again, it all comes down to the fact that our politics since 1967 has never really owned up to the fact that, oh my God, we've liberated our ancestral homeland. How do we move forward properly?
So what do you think we should have done?
Well, we should have applied sovereignty in 1967 initially. But again, that's not where the mindset was of the Jewish world. We were shocked in 1967. The Jewish world was trying, Israel was trying to convince the king of Jordan not to go to war against us. Like they were hoping Jordan wouldn't go to war against us. Our army was not prepared to fight Jordan or to fight in Jerusalem. Like, there were no army plans. The fact that Jordan joined the war, and then last minute Israel had to fight in Jerusalem, and we liberated Judea and Samaria, and the Jordanian army ran away, and all of a sudden we were in charge of Judea and Samaria and Gaza. That was not, the Israeli political establishment and military establishment were not ready for that. So the mindset of the Jewish people, the mindset of the political establishment then was, oh my God, here's our opportunity to make peace. Right? We liberated the land. Let's use it as a bargaining chip. And basically since then, it's not changed. That's still the political mindset. Use Judea and Samaria and Gaza as bargaining chips and looking at it as a problem instead of looking at it as a solution. Now, again, so the specific, how we get to the process of allegiance, Israeli citizenship, or Alan Vasala, and go live in a country where it agrees in killing Jews, that's a process we're going to have to define, and we're only going to be able to define it when we have the political will and the support from the public, obviously, to implement such a solution, and then we'll work forward and do something that will obviously be much better than what exists with the Arabs who live on the eastern side of Jerusalem, which, yeah, again, is problematic because, again, I disagree with how things have been handled there since 1967, and it's not a simple situation.
Yeah, for one more question. No guy, I think, is raising their hand for a while. Sorry, guys.
One of your points was about how in Israel we are the only democracy in the Middle East, and how the Islamic countries have become very jihadist and fundamentalist.
Not all. I didn't say that.
The ones in the Middle East, but that's what you said.
No. I said Israel is the only country where a Sunni Muslim, a Shiite Muslim, an atheist Muslim, a gay Muslim can live with freedom and equality together with Jews, Christians, and all other minorities.
Okay, I guess my question is, we're seeing a rise in fundamental Judaism. Like in Israel with Smotrich and Ben Gvir. So like Knesset, we're seeing, gay rights being taken away or being planned to be taken away. We're seeing women's rights being talked about. So if we're risking losing that democracy, which is, probably one of our biggest points, how do we justify, Israel in a way.
I think that's a total red herring issue. That's a bunch of baloney. I'm someone who agrees politically with Smotrich, Ben-Gvir. I have disagreements with both of them. No one in Israel is talking about taking rights away to the level that you are thinking about. And there is no danger to Israel losing itself being a democratic state. And personally, listen, I actually spoke. Okay, two different issues. Two different issues. That's two different issues. Again, one could love everyone, even including that they're gay or not gay, regardless, but then disagree that certain educational programs or certain or whatever are first in Israeli society. No, he's not. We're not talking about gay rights being taken away in terms of freedom and equality. Certain extra rights are possibly being talked about. But again, that's not you're not talking about a danger of Israeli democracy and the fundamentalism in terms of trying to equate to a fundamentalism of an enemy that lives next to us, that their children are being taught to kill us. No one is talking, Chalila v'chas, even the most extreme on the fundamentalist right, no one is talking about killing gays or teaching about Chalila v'chas.
Maybe not killing gays, but killing Arabs. We're seeing narot va'ot.
Don't go that far.
Ben-Gvir was arrested. He wasn't allowed in the army because he was too extreme. Someone from my kibbutz arrested him for the first time because he tried to kill an Arab. How is that different? They're being taught to hate them. I grew up in a religious kibbutz. I went to a religious school. Kids in my school said, why don't we just bomb Gaza? We have atomic bombs. Why don't we kill them all? They don't see an issue with it. Just like not everyone there is being taught to hate Jews, some people here are being taught to hate and want to kill Arabs. So how do we say, no, we don't want to, and they're the bad guys, we're the good guys. It's not black and white. We have...
Okay. Wait, what is your name?
Noga.
Noga. Right. So Noga. Okay, all right. We'll end with this. First of all, I'll answer your question, even though this is totally separate from the whole issue of sovereignty as the solution. I personally teach my boys, all right, and I take responsibility for myself, and I know that most of the people I know, to love each and every creation of God. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's very challenging in a reality where you walk down the street and you don't know if you could trust the Arab Muslim standing next to you, whether an Israeli citizen or not an Israeli citizen, knowing that they're committing terror attacks and they're educated to be committing terror attacks. Not necessarily that one, but you don't know. Whether terror attacks in Jerusalem, whether terror attacks in Judea Samaria, whether terror attacks in Tel Aviv. So I agree that anyone who teaches to hate all Arabs is wrong. But I don't believe that's the reality we're dealing with. And we're dealing with a reality where, in even a majority of the religious Zionist community, because that's what you are right now pointing out, even if there are kids or adults who might voice opinions, like you are saying right now, the majority understand that our reality is complex, and they're trying very, very hard to not hate all Arabs, but to hate those Arabs who want to kill us. And it's not simple. That's the complex reality. And I hope and pray that we come to the reality where none of us will have to have a fear or distrust of someone standing next to us because we know they come from a certain community which educates their young already to literally murder us. And I do believe that sovereignty, and yes, applying allegiance, citizenship, is the only solution to bring us to that reality. Giving away our land and ignoring the reality of their society that they're living in is just a recipe for more disaster and more terror. If you want, I think that's it. So if you want to ask me,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support support our work by donating today.